When Asher Vance confessed to me, his childhood friend Chloe Sterling stood right next to him, laughing in my face. The limited edition Jordans on his feet cost more than your tuition for a whole semester, Maya, she sneered. You didn't actually believe he was serious, did you? But I did. I fell for his joke. Back then, I was too naive to realize that Asher and I belonged to two completely different worlds. That was until Chloe lost her diamond bracelet. Asher, along with everyone else, directed his cold, mocking gaze at me. His voice dripped with sarcasm. If you were that desperate for cash, Maya, you could have just asked me. Why do this? My eyes welled with tears, and my hands shook violently inside my jacket sleeves. When I transferred schools, I blocked Asher on Snapchat, Instagram, and every other way he could reach me. I vanished without a sound. But I never expected that the arrogant, high and mighty Asher Vance would spend the next 7 years desperately searching for me. After gym class, Chloe, our school's resident it girl, lost her extremely expensive designer bracelet. Without my knowledge, she led a crowd to tear through my backpack. By the time I walked back into the classroom, my desk was an absolute mess. She was clinging to Asher's arm, whining. Asher, Maya is your girlfriend. Just tell her to give my bracelet back. Asher and Chloe grew up together. Everyone knew she was special to him. Even I had to admit that they shared a world I could never touch. Whenever they chatted about designer brands and luxury trips, I could only stand there, completely out of the loop. But this time, Asher didn't immediately back her up. He quietly cleaned up the mess on my desk, then finally looked up at her. What's the big deal about a bracelet? He said casually, though he didn't deny her accusation. I'll just buy you a new one. The classroom instantly erupted into whispers. The rumors started flying, each one uglier than the last. Wait, is it really the student council president? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Everyone knows she's here on financial aid. And she was the only one who went back to the classroom during gym class. Man, if she pawned that bracelet, she wouldn't have to worry about rent for the next 6 months. Hey, I heard her dad got his leg busted years ago because he was caught stealing. I froze at the classroom door. It felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. I went entirely numb. I never knew that the classmates who politely called me president to my face talked about me like this behind my back. Suddenly, someone called out, Maya? The room went dead silent. Dozens of eyes locked onto me. I hadn't done a single thing wrong. Yet the overwhelming shame and humiliation almost suffocated me. Clutching my sleeves, I saw Asher turn to look at me. Maybe it was just my imagination, but for a split second, I thought I saw a flash of disgust in his eyes. 第三集. No one cared about my explanation. In fact, the more I tried to defend myself, the weirder their looks became. Oh, forget it, Chloe said, her voice sweet and gentle. It's fine. I have plenty of other bracelets anyway. She generously told everyone it was probably just her own mistake, and that they should drop it. But I refused to let this fake generosity drag my name through the dirt. As Chloe turned to leave, I grabbed her wrist. I wanted to take her to the administration office to check the security cameras. Chloe tilted her head, giving me a knowing, amused look. I knew Chloe would resist. But I never expected that the one who would physically stop me was Asher. He gently patted my head. That's enough, Maya. It's over. Whenever I was upset, Asher used to comfort me like this. But hearing those words now only made the lump in my throat grow tighter. I didn't take it. I choked out, looking up at him with tear-filled eyes. My dad came to drop off my lunch. I only ran back to the classroom to put the pizza box away. I didn't touch anything else. I had only gone back to put away the pizza. My dad had made it himself and brought it over. He told me it was my birthday, and that I deserved a good meal. But Asher didn't seem to care about my explanation. He said it didn't matter. He said no matter what I did, he could make it go away. But why didn't it matter? I hadn't done anything. Did Asher seriously not understand how important a person's reputation was? I insisted on checking the cameras. Finally, Asher lost his patience. He let go of my hand and let out a laugh. It was a low, chilling sound. My heart sank. I slowly looked up and met his eyes. I saw the smirk on his face. I saw the same unconcealed prejudice in his eyes that everyone else had. Drop the act, Maya, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Did you really not take it? I remember you telling me a few days ago that you were really short on rent. And by the way, the classroom security camera just happened to break yesterday. Are you telling me you didn't know that? My brain went completely blank. For some reason, Chloe's old words flashed in my mind. She had said, "You still don't get it, do you? You and Asher belong to different worlds." I hadn't understood it then. But at this moment, I finally did. Asher Vance, the golden boy who grew up pampered by everyone, had classism engraved in his very bones. When push came to shove, he would always believe Chloe, the girl from his own social circle. He knew exactly how important a reputation was. He just never believed me from the start. The school bell rang loudly. It blended with Chloe's quiet giggle. In the chaos of students moving, someone knocked against my desk. I turned around just in time to see the pizza box slide off and hit the floor. The slice of pizza fell face down, sliding across the dusty floor and stopping right at my feet. It was covered in dirt and hair. I stared at it, completely speechless. The last string of my sanity snapped. Asher's voice was still buzzing in my ear. If you were short on cash, you could have just asked me. Why do this? I couldn't take it anymore. I closed my eyes and shoved him away with all my might. When I looked up, the tears were streaming down my face. Yes, Asher, my family is poor. But I am not a thief. The autumn rain was freezing. I sat on the empty bleachers of the football field, holding the dirty pizza box, eating the salvageable pieces in silence. Actually, there wasn't much left. Most of it had been ruined. Asher walked over, holding an umbrella. His voice was tight with anger. What the hell are you doing out here in the rain? Drop that food, it's filthy. Maya, did you hear me? It's just a cheap pizza. Is it really worth all this? I'll buy you whatever you want. Asher rarely lost his temper with me. Normally, I would have teased him until he apologized. But right now, I just wanted to eat my lunch in peace. I gripped the box tightly, refusing to share his umbrella. Every time Asher took a step closer, I slid a step away. Are you seriously avoiding me? For a moment, his face went completely blank. After a second of silence, Asher took a step back. He held the umbrella over my head, letting the freezing rain soak his own shoulders as he stared at me. By the time I took my last bite, the downpour was heavy. Asher finally spoke. About the bracelet, I'll handle. Don't bother, I interrupted him. I'll handle it myself. I said I'd help you. Asher's tone was filled with frustration. How are you going to handle it? With your pathetic allowance? Hearing that, I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. Believe whatever you want. I carefully closed the empty box, stood up and walked away. Through the heavy rain, I thought I heard him call my name, but I didn't look back. After that day, Asher stopped coming to school. That was our very last conversation. Chloe dropped the accusation, but the rumors didn't stop. The principal adjusted his glasses and told me sternly that he would look into the matter. When I walked back into the classroom, some students instinctively clutched their designer bags closer to themselves. I froze at the door. My throat burned. I had studied so hard to get into this elite school, maintaining the top rank in our grade, only to be treated like a common thief. On parent-teacher night, I saw parents pointing at my dad's back near the school gates, snickering. Their whispers drifted over in the cold wind. Hey, is that the Miller girl's dad? I heard his leg got ruined because he got caught stealing. Like father, like daughter. No wonder she stole Chloe Sterling's bracelet. In the freezing wind, I saw my dad's shoulders stiffen. For the first time in my life, I couldn't look my dad in the eye. Whispers are a terrifying thing. Those silent, judging stares felt like 1,000 tiny cuts. It was the most excruciating day of my life. When we got home, my dad sat in the dark, smoking in silence for hours. I cried and hugged him. Dad, I didn't steal anything. I remembered everything you taught me. My dad didn't blame me, nor did he ask for details. He just looked at me after a long silence and asked softly, is it because of me that they blamed you? In the shadows, he gave me a weak, heartbreaking smile. I'm sorry, Maya. His voice was hoarse. I'm sorry I made you carry my shame. He finally told me the truth about his past. But the truth was, I had always known. I was adopted. I had no money, and you were so sick back then, my dad recalled, his eyes filled with a pain that years couldn't erase. I tried to borrow from everyone, but we were still $1,000 short for your medical bills. I was desperate. But a crime is a crime. Once you cross that line, the shame sticks to your bones forever. You can never wash it off. My dad's voice faded into the night. Finally, he murmured almost to himself. If a better man had found you back then, would you be living a better life now? Shortly after, my dad's chronic illness flared up badly. Terrified, I took a leave of absence from school. I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to stay by his hospital bed. But when I came back from buying lunch one afternoon, I saw Chloe standing outside his ward. My heart leaped into my throat. Chloe had met my dad once before. With Asher. Right in front of my dad's burger truck. I couldn't remember the details clearly, but I remembered her innocent, disgusted tone. How can anyone eat from a dirty truck like this? She had asked me. Just because you're used to eating trash doesn't mean you have to drag Asher down with you. I remembered Asher taking a bite, his handsome brow furrowing. He chewed twice, and then, as if he couldn't stand it, he spat it out into a napkin. My dad had stood there in the freezing wind, looking at those rich kids. I had a massive fight with Asher that night. Pulling myself back to reality, I stared defensively at Chloe. What do you want? Chloe smiled warmly. Maya, if you needed money, you should have just said so. You shouldn't delay your dad's treatment. We're classmates after all. Asher and I won't just stand by and do nothing. She slid a debit card toward me. What is this? I know a really great hospital in another state that can treat your dad. I can get him in. But that city is really far from here. It must be so exhausting to travel back and forth. The sterile corridor of the hospital was dead silent. I stared at Chloe for a long time. Suddenly, she smiled. Do you know why Asher hasn't been to school lately? He thinks you're embarrassing. He's too proud to be associated with a thief. You know his temper better than I do, right? That's why I'm the only one here today. Chloe's voice was soft, but her words felt like a million needles piercing my heart. The pain came in waves. My eyelashes fluttered. Inside the room, my dad's ragged coughing sounded like a ticking clock, counting down his life. At that moment, all my pride vanished. The smoke cleared, and only the life-saving card remained in my hand. I needed that money. I squeezed the card tightly in my palm. Thank you. I'll transfer schools immediately and move with him. I will pay you back every cent. I just need some time. Chloe chuckled mockingly. Who cares? Bye, Maya. I didn't tell anyone about the transfer. On a random Tuesday afternoon, we packed our lives and left the city. After moving to the new hospital, my dad's condition slowly stabilized. Life at the new high school was intense. I ran back and forth between the hospital and our cramped rental apartment. Fortunately, my grades didn't slip. My dad slowly recovered. During college, I juggled multiple part-time jobs and classes, barely having time to breathe. As for the money I owed Chloe, I sent monthly payments to the account number she had left me. It took me until 2 years after graduation to fully pay her back. 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. I never expected to run into Asher Vance again. The reunion caught me completely off guard. It happened at a high-end club, where my college friend Lily Carson had dragged me to a party filled with trust fund kids. Almost everyone there was a wealthy heir or heiress. I hadn't wanted to go, but Lily had pleaded with me while fixing her makeup. Come on, Maya. If it weren't for my rich boyfriend, we'd never get into a place like this. Just think of it as a free luxury dinner. Plus, with your looks, you might actually catch a hot millionaire. Just come with me, please. Lily was my college roommate. I had lost touch with most people after graduation, but we remained close. She was dramatic, but she had a good heart. Unable to say no, I agreed. When we stepped into the private suite, the scent of luxury was overwhelming. It really wasn't a place for ordinary people like me, but a free meal was fine. Or so I thought, until the door opened. And the first person I saw in the crowd was Chloe Sterling. She had changed a lot in 7 years. The childish innocence was gone, replaced by an elegant, sexy charm. I didn't expect to see her here. And she clearly didn't expect to see me either. She was so shocked she knocked over her wine glass. The room was noisy, and Lily pushed me inside. Several guys started teasingly asking Lily to introduce me. Chloe stared at me, a slow smirk spreading across her face. Oh, we're old friends. I know her well. The teasing grew louder. An old friend? Well, don't keep us waiting, Chloe. Introduce her. Oh, I should definitely introduce her properly. Chloe leaned back in her chair, looking thoughtful. We stared at each other across the crowded room. Then she smiled maliciously. So Maya, should I start with the story of how you stole my diamond bracelet? Or should I just start with your name? The room went dead silent. The smiles on everyone's faces froze. The looks they gave me instantly turned into suspicion and disgust. The whispers started again. It felt exactly like 7 years ago. Chloe's smirk remained perfectly in place. Lily instantly lost her temper. What the hell are you talking about? Don't make things up. Maya would never do that. Chloe looked at me. Why don't you ask her yourself? Her fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, a nervous tick. My eyes fell on the empty seat next to her. The seat in the very center. It was reserved for the most important guest of the night. Chloe was clearly trying to kick me out before that person arrived. I looked at her and smiled. You're nervous. The smile on Chloe's face vanished. Whether it was 7 years ago or now, my answer is the same. I, Maya Miller, have never stolen a thing in my life. And about that bracelet. I stared straight into her eyes. Did you really lose it, Chloe? The air in the VIP suite turned ice cold. Chloe's hand trembled so violently that her red wine spilled across the marble table, staining the white linen cloth like fresh blood. Maya, don't play mind games with me. Chloe sneered, trying to keep her voice steady. Everyone in our high school knew you were poor. You couldn't even afford winter boots. Who else would take $100,000 diamond bracelet from the locker room? Me. A quiet, sharp voice sounded from the doorway. The heavy double doors of the private suite swung open. A man stood in the entryway, flanked by 2 club managers bowing respectfully. He wore a dark, custom-tailored charcoal suit, his broad shoulders casting a long shadow across the room. His features were razor-sharp, his eyes a cold, striking gray, radiating an aura of absolute authority that made everyone in the room instinctively hold their breath. It was Asher Vance. 7 years had erased every bit of his teenage boyishness. He was no longer the arrogant high school golden boy who wore limited edition Jordans and smirked carelessly in classrooms. He was the ruthless, undisputed head of Vance. Enterprises, a man whose single word could make or break companies across the state. The room fell completely silent. Asher. Chloe's face lit up with relief. She immediately stood up, smoothing her designer dress, her voice instantly shifting back to her sweet, delicate tone. You're finally here. You won't believe it. Maya Miller showed up tonight. She's still making up lies about the bracelet from 7 years ago. Asher didn't even look at her. His gray eyes locked onto me the second he entered the room, and he froze. The glass of whiskey in his hand slipped, crashing onto the carpeted floor. The amber liquid soaked into his leather shoes, but he didn't care. His breath hitched, his chest heaving as if he had just run 10 miles through a storm. Maya, he whispered. His voice was hoarse, raw, and trembling with a grief so profound that everyone in the room looked at him in total shock. He took a step toward me, then another, his eyes wide, bloodshot, as if he were staring at a ghost he had chased through hell for 7 years. Maya, it's really you. Asher breathed, stopping 3 feet away from me, his long fingers shaking as he reached out toward my arm. Where did you go? I took a half step back, stepping neatly behind Lily, avoiding his touch with quiet, cold precision. Asher's hand froze in midair. A look of devastating pain flashed across his handsome face. Chloe ran forward, trying to wrap her arm around Asher's sleeve. Asher, what are you doing? She's a thief. She vanished 7 years ago because she knew she was guilty. Why are you looking at her like that? Asher slowly turned his head. The gentle, desperate emotion in his eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a dark, terrifying malice that made Chloe flinch backward. Let go of me, Chloe, Asher said, his voice dropping into a lethal, low rumble. Before I break your arm. Chloe recoiled as if she had been burned, her face draining of all color. Asher. She whimpered, her voice trembling. Why are you treating me like this? We grew up together. She's just a poor girl who paid you back every single cent, I interrupted smoothly. I pulled out my phone, unlocked the screen, and tapped on my banking app. I flipped the screen around, displaying a 7-year transaction logged directly in front of the crowd. $50,000, I said, my voice calm, clear, and ringing across the silent room. Transferred in monthly installments of $600 over 78 months, ending 2 years ago. Account holder name Chloe Sterling. The room erupted into quiet, shocked gasps. Lily stared at the screen, then at Chloe, her eyes bulging. Wait, Chloe, you took $50,000 from Maya? She borrowed it. Chloe stammered, sweating profusely, looking frantically at Asher. Her dad was dying. I was being charitable. I gave her a loan. You didn't give me a loan, Chloe, I said, looking at her with cold eyes. You came to my dad's hospital room with a debit card and a transfer agreement. You told me that if I took the money to save my dad's life, I had to drop out of school, leave the city immediately, and never speak to Asher again. Asher went dead still. His head snapped toward Chloe, his gray eyes widening in pure horror. What did you say? Asher, no, she's lying. Chloe screamed, grabbing her hair in panic. She took the money and ran. She told me she hated you. She said you were just a rich kid who looked down on her. I have the signed contract in my bank safety deposit box, Chloe, I added mildly. Would you like me to call my attorney to fax a copy to the club? Chloe's knees gave out. She stumbled back, crashing into a chair, her face paper white. Asher turned slowly back to Chloe, his breathing ragged, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. 7 years ago. Asher's voice trembled with a terrifying, dangerous rage. You told me Maya took your bracelet, stole $50,000 from your locker, and fled the city with a guy from another school. Asher, I was trying to protect you. Chloe sobbed hysterically, dropping to her knees. She wasn't one of us. She was poor. She was dragging you down. Your parents would never have accepted her. Where was the bracelet, Chloe? Asher asked, his voice dropping into a whisper that made the entire room shiver. Chloe bit her lip, weeping silently, unable to answer. Tell him. Lily shouted from beside me. Where was the damn bracelet? It was in her own jewelry box at home. A tall guy near the back row suddenly spoke up. It was Julian, one of Asher's close friends who had been present during our high school days. Julian looked at Chloe with utter disgust. I went to her house 2 months after Maya left. I saw the exact diamond bracelet sitting on Chloe's vanity table. When I asked her about it, she paid me $10,000 to keep my mouth shut. The entire suite went dead silent. The truth, buried under 7 years of wealth, arrogance, and lies, was laid completely bare. Asher stood in the center of the room as if he had been struck by lightning. The color drained from his face until he looked like a corpse. He slowly lifted his hands, looking down at his palms, the palms that had cleaned up my desk 7 years ago. the palms that had held an umbrella over my head while he scoffed at my dad's homemade pizza. If you were short on cash, you could have just asked me. Why do this? Drop the act, Maya. Did you really not take it? His own words from 7 years ago echoed in his mind like sharp iron blades, slicing through his chest, ripping his heart to pieces. He had believed Chloe. He had assumed that because Maya was poor, because her father was a crippled worker, she was capable of theft. He had used his wealth as a shield, acting like a benevolent master offering to make it go away. Completely destroying the pride of the girl he claimed to love. He had driven her into a corner, watched her eat dirty pizza in the freezing rain, and let Chloe buy her exile with $50,000, money Maya had spent 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears paying back to the cent. Maya. Asher turned to me, his voice breaking into a sob. The high and mighty heir of the Vance family, a man who commanded billions in corporate capital, fell to his knees right there on the carpeted floor in front of 20 wealthy heirs. Maya, I'm sorry. He wept, reaching out with trembling, desperate hands to grab the hem of my coat. I was a bastard. I was an idiot. I let my arrogance blind me. Please, Maya, hit me, scream at me, just don't look at me like that. I looked down at him. He was kneeling at my feet, weeping like a broken child, surrounded by his expensive suit, his luxury club, and his powerful status. 7 years ago, I would have cried. I would have felt the crushing weight of heartbreak and shame. But today, standing here as a 25-year-old woman who had built her own life, paid off every debt, and taken care of her father through sheer hard work, I felt nothing. No hatred. No satisfaction. No lingering heartbreak. Just a quiet, profound emptiness. I slowly pulled the hem of my coat out of his shaking grip. Stand up, Mr. Vance, I said, my voice calm, polite, and as distant as the stars. You're embarrassing yourself. Asher flinched violently at the title, Mr. Vance. No, don't call me that, he begged, tears streaming down his sharp jawline. Call me Asher. Like you used to. Maya, I searched for you for 7 years. I bought the school. I fired the principal who blamed you. I bought your old house and kept it exactly the same. I haven't touched another woman since the day you left. You bought the house? He smiled faintly. A sad, quiet smile. Why, Asher? To satisfy your own guilt? Or to prove once again that money can fix anything you break? Asher froze. 7 years ago, my dad stood outside the school gates in the freezing wind, listening to parents call him a thief's father. I said, looking into his bloodshot eyes. He sat in the dark for hours, blaming himself for making me carry his shame. Asher choked on his breath, his chest heaving violently. You thought it was just a cheap pizza, I continued softly. You thought $50,000 was just a small amount of cash. But to us, that pizza was my dad's love, and that money was my dad's life. I turned my head to look at Chloe, who was cowering on the floor, weeping in horror. Chloe, I said mildly, the $50,000 has been repaid in full with bank interest. If you ever mention my name or my father's name again, my lawyer will serve you with a criminal lawsuit for extortion and slander. Then I looked back at Asher. As for you, Mr. Vance, thank you for the lesson 7 years ago. It taught me that self-respect is something no rich boy can ever give me, and no rich girl can ever take away. I turned on my heel, grabbed Lily's hand, and walked straight toward the exit. Maya, no, don't leave me. Asher screamed, scrambling up from the floor, running after me into the rain-soaked courtyard outside the club. The autumn wind blew cold air across the pavement, exactly like the rain 7 years ago. Asher caught up to me near the entrance gates, reaching out desperately to block my path, holding an umbrella over my head while the freezing rain soaked his own suit shoulders. It was the exact same scene from 7 years ago. Maya, please. Asher wept, his body shaking violently in the cold wind. Give me one chance, just one. I'll give up the company, I'll give up everything. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and your dad. I stopped. I looked at the umbrella held over my head, then looked at his soaked, ruined suit. I reached out, gently pushed his umbrella away, and stepped back into the rain. You can buy 1,000,000 bracelets, Asher, I said, my voice clear and steady, against the sound of the falling water. You can buy the school, the house, and the entire city, but you can never buy back the girl who ate dirty pizza in the rain while you judged her. I looked him straight in the eyes one last time. Goodbye, Asher. I turned around and walked into the rain, getting into the back seat of a waiting taxi with Lily, never once looking back. Asher stood alone in the freezing downpour, holding the empty umbrella, watching the red taillights of the taxi disappear into the dark night, weeping until his voice was completely gone. 1 year later, the spring sun shone brightly over a clean, sunlit street near the city center. A small, charming bakery named Maya's Kitchen had its grand opening today. Freshly baked bread, hot pizza, and sweet coffee aromas filled the air. My dad stood behind the glass counter, wearing a clean white apron, his limp much less noticeable after his successful leg surgery last year. He was smiling warmly, handing a hot box of fresh pizza to a neighborhood customer. "Here you go. Fresh from the oven." My dad called out, his voice bright, healthy, and full of life. "Thank you, Mr. Miller," the customer smiled, leaving a generous tip. I walked out from the kitchen carrying a tray of fresh cinnamon rolls, placing them on the display rack. My hair was tied up neatly, my skin glowing with health and peace. Over the past year, Chloe Sterling's family business had suffered complete financial collapse after Vance Enterprises pulled all funding and contracts. Chloe had been forced to drop out of her socialite circles, working a low-level desk job to pay off her family's debts. As for Asher Vance, he never married. He threw himself into corporate expansion, expanding Vance Enterprises into a global giant, but his personal life became a total void. Every Tuesday afternoon, the exact day I had transferred 7 years ago, a dark sedan would park across the street from my bakery. Asher would sit quietly in the back seat, watching through the tinted glass as I laughed with customers, baked bread with my dad, and lived my bright, peaceful life. He never stepped out of the car. He never approached the shop. He had finally learned the lesson I gave him in the rain. Real respect means staying away when your presence is no longer wanted. Maya. Lily ran into the bakery, holding 2 cups of iced milk tea, grinning from ear to ear. "Look, the city council approved our second branch application." "Really?" I smiled, wiping my hands on my apron. "That's amazing." My dad walked over, putting an arm around my shoulders, his eyes filled with immense pride. "My girl can do anything she sets her mind to." I looked out the sunlit window at the bright blue sky above the city. The dark shadows of high school, the rumors, the dirty pizza, and the cold rain had all faded into distant memories. I was no longer the timid financial aid girl hiding in the shadows. I was Maya Miller, a woman who owned her life, loved her family, and walked proudly under her own sun.